Hi guys, welcome back to another episode here at the Rural Investment Symposium. It's my great honour to be joined here by Sean, our Metals Resource. Sean, thanks for joining me here today. Why don't you take a moment to tell us about your personal background and how you came to be in the position you are now at POW?
Okay, well, thanks very much for having me. It's great to see you, and it's been a terrific week here at the symposium. It's our third visit, so we're really becoming part of the furniture, I think, a little bit here. But look, yeah, I've been the CEO for a bit over 2 years. So I joined in March 2023. Prior to that, I'd had a number of roles in the resource sector, focusing really on business development, investor relations. But going further back, my career was really in finance, particularly latterly in helping mining companies raise finance for the market. So really, my real mission with Power is to obviously further some great collection of assets, but to make sure that those assets are properly funded so that we can optimize our opportunities. So we brought in, obviously, as an investor, which we did in May 2023, and that's obviously kind of why we're here. And we're focused on a global collection of assets, global portfolio in critical metals, and it's the mission that drives us. And so far, it's going really, really well. So very focused on that, and excited to be here meeting investors.
Absolutely. And for someone that may not be quite so familiar with POW, explain to us the business model that you guys.
We like to think of it as an incubator model. I mean, that's fairly well established over here. In fact, there are other companies here that do that model. Rick Rule describes it as a kind of mining merchant bank. So essentially what we're doing is taking early stage assets where we're getting the right levels of funding and capital structure. We look to advance those projects through exploration, obviously, some of that being exploration drilling, some of that being geophysics, geochemistry, and then to crystallize that value into either an IPO in its own right, as we've seen with Guardian Metal, or in the case of our uranium assets, with a strategic joint venture. So it's about all aspects of the exploration cycle. It's about getting the projects in the first place, which could be through staking or can be through partnering with existing license holders, getting the right levels of funding in, getting the exploration achieved, and also getting that crystallization event, which takes so I think when people look at us, they see some ways like a sum of the parts business where it's a collection of assets all with different stages of their life cycle, all with a different value. I think we focus very strongly on our shareholders' funds per share as a key metric, and that's what I'm focused on driving. And I think ultimately that's delivering great returns for our shareholders.
Fantastic. Tell me about the current book of assets. Tell me about perhaps which commodities you like, or whether you're more focused on the early stage ventures in particular jurisdictions, and then what the plan is to have those developed moving.
So I would say that the most active asset that we have at the moment in terms of exploration is our collection of uranium assets in Canada. So that's based around the Athabasca Basin and also in Labrador. And we've got a drill program going on literally right now as we speak. So it's very early days, we're just a few holes in. So there's not really anything to report just yet, but we're looking forward to exploring over the whole of the balance of this year, probably to the end of October, and that'll be generating a lot of news for us. So that's kind of number one. And, obviously, uranium is critical metal for the energy transition. I mean, we know that there's a very big deal of interest in that. But also, Canada is a great jurisdiction for us to be in. Obviously, it's tier one jurisdiction, Saskatchewan in particular. So, that's a really sort of key focus. We also have a collection of assets in Australia, in Western Australia and in the Northern Territory, and that's in a vehicle called First Development Resources, which we are undertaking an IPO right now. So that's going to hopefully come to market very soon, and we're looking forward to being able to report that. And again, tier one jurisdiction. Another thing that we're doing is our what we call Power Arabia, which is our business in Saudi Arabia and Oman, and that's making really great progress. We're in joint venture with a partner in Saudi Arabia, some lithium licenses. We also have a partnership in Oman, which is highly prospective for copper in particular, but an opportunity to really grow the business. And what I'm focused on is making sure we've got the financing sorted for that. And we're in active discussions with potential partners to do exactly that. So that's very exciting. If you look at also in North America, we still own a stake in Guardian Metal Resources, which has been very, very successful. And we sold a bit of that stake to bring in cash. a balance of around 18%, and that business has done incredibly well, and it's put us in a strong cash position. The other thing that investors look at is, how is this business funded, and when are you going to come back to the market? We are at the moment in a very, very strong position. So, that whole kind of cycle where you have to do discounted capital raises and all that kind of thing, that's not something we're doing at the moment. We're very, very focused on not diluting our shareholders and bringing our assets into crystallization.
Where the company is at right now in terms of market capitalization, and you touched on the balance sheet.
Yeah.
How I suppose how is the growth going to be funded moving forwards if it's not going to be a higher capital rate?
Okay. The market cap of the company is around about 15 million, which interestingly is around about the value of our stake in Guardian Metal. So, that's a lot of people will look at that and say, okay, but then in which case I'm getting everything else for free, right? The uranium, 30% of the uranium JV, the assets in Saudi Arabia, Oman, Australia, Africa, etc. So that's the kind of first point. I think, going forward, I'm not saying that we obviously would never raise capital. Clearly, if a great opportunity came along that needs funding, we would clearly look at that as a route. But it's not a focus right at the minute. We are really keen to deliver on the projects that we have. Guardian Metals has been a roaring success, so we're going to duplicate that. I hope with first development resources and in time. So yeah, look, the balance sheet is incredibly important for families like us, and having appropriate levels of sustainable capital, very, very important. And that's what we're focused on.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. With these assets that you're wanting to get into production, where do they lie more or less on that classic Nissan curve in terms of, as we look out, where would you estimate at first?
Well, so we're not really in the production business, so we're very much more of an explorer. So we tend to focus a little bit more on the early stage, getting value through exploration, getting up to resource level, and then that's the point at which we would either bring in a partner or look to exit. So we're kind of an explorer. Now, that's not to say that we'd never be interested in developing mines or in production. That's an expensive business, and you're talking about big assets now. So our value is added much more at the kind of earlier stage. Guardian Metal, for example, when it was under our ownership, obviously it stands on its own 2 feet now, but we brought in a Lila Mountain. This is the largest undeveloped tungsten asset in the US. That business has increased the resource, and it's now going to develop it into production. But we're not out, obviously, but we're not the active developer at this stage.
Sure. So you focus really right at the start of that curve.
Yeah.
Value, getting these things in front of potentially that next either JV or outright partner, who will then take it through the rest. And how many assets do you currently have in the portfolio?
Well, so everything's kind of at a little bit of a different stage. We've got the uranium assets in Canada. We've got the gold, copper, potential rare earth in Australia. We've got nickel and gold in Botswana, lithium and copper potential in Saudi Arabia and Oman. As I said, we have our holding in Guardian Metal. We have our holding in First Class Metals. So it's a big sort of collection, and a lot of people say, well, there's a lot going on. I mean, how do you sort of concentrate on it all? And the answer is, well, we've got a great team, highly professional and experienced group of geologists. The management team also has fantastic experience in executing deals, legal structures, frameworks, and everything. My background is obviously more on the financing side. We obviously, CSR is very important, particularly when you're dealing with First Nations, Canada and Australia, and investor relations and marketing. So we're a fairly small team, but we've got fantastic skill set.
How big do you think this can get? What's your aim over, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years? Using this model, I presume it's going to be that same kind of product incubation and then holding on to a piece and allowing other partners to come in and
yeah, that's right. It's right to identify. It's important to not just focus on the entry, but also on the exit and recycling that capital. We've done that to a large extent in Guardian. These things take time. It's been 4 or 5 years in the making. When we get first development over the line, for example, we'll be locked into our holding for at least 2 years. So we're not, we don't look to exit straight away, but you recycle the capital and we look for new opportunities. Meeting with Rick earlier in the week, we were giving him an update on the business, and he said, put it in American parlance, he said, you take a quarter and you turn it into a $5 bill. Keep doing that, over time, and you make a lot of money. So, that's really what we focus on for shareholders, saying we take a pound in this case, and if you look at the progression of the shareholders' funds per share, which is what we focus on, you can see that it's on a really good upward trajectory, and that's where I think we can look to continue to add value. So it's difficult to predict, obviously, the way the markets go. But I think the feedback we've had from this week has been fantastic. We've seen a number of people who are already shareholders, a number of people who've been buying stock, I guess, for the first time. And I think that as people get more familiar with what we're doing, particularly over here, then I think there's a great opportunity for shareholders.
Investor shareholders for potential investor shareholders.
Well, I think the main thing really is that we're running a very lean, very very entrepreneurial business, which means that amongst other things we're very accessible. If anybody wants to contact me directly, there's obviously ways you can do that through the website. We have very very good marketing collaterals, but I do urge people, if they want to know more about the business, to get in touch directly with the investor communications myself. So always keen to talk about how much info you have to pick up the phone, answer emails. So if anybody wants to know more, ticket symbol is POW. We're listed on the AIM market. Resources.com is our website. And please, do get in touch and learn more about the business.
Links to everything discussed will be in the description, guys. So check out down below and get in contact with Sean and the team. The ticker and the listing, once again, it's
POW. So that's for power. Power, as people often call us, and powermetalresources.com is our website.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks
Wishing you all the best, and I'll be keeping an eye on it. Thanks, guys, and we'll be back with another episode shortly. Take care.